Hey, beautiful souls, and welcome to Around the Kitchen Table, a space for honest conversations, stories from the heart, and gentle reminders that we're all walking each other home. I'm Laura Island, mother, creative, soul-led CEO of Sacred Sister CIC, and the woman behind Wise Sacred Woman. I'm a witch with ADHD, and this podcast is where we gather to share the real, raw and radiant parts of life. Each week, we'll explore what it means to live in rhythm with ourselves, with nature and with one another. We'll talk about womanhood, sisterhood, creativity, leadership, spirituality, and the messy magic of being a human. So pour yourself a cuppa, get comfy, and let's meet here around the kitchen table, where stories are medicine and every voice belongs. So welcome to Around the Kitchen Table. It's another guest podcast today, and it's the afternoon, which is really funny time for me because usually it's my it might even be my nap time sometimes in an afternoon. But today it just flowed that we are meeting in the afternoon. And I was just saying to our guest, it's so funny how you kind of show up differently in the daytime compared to, where I just get up in the mornings and I do my own podcast and I'm usually in my pajamas and I don't really give a monkeys. And suddenly I'm like, oh, is my hair all right? Have I got my face on? Do I look okay? It's just a weird reality that I'm watching in myself as I show up in a different way today. So I wonder how you're doing as you listen to this, wherever you are, however you are showing up. And I want to introduce you to a lovely guest today. I'll bring her on in a moment, but this guest is, I don't even know where to begin of what I know of Peace because we have never actually met. And I did this last week when I recorded with Coco. We've never met either. But Peace's artwork used to just keep showing up. And I remember looking at it. It was a beautiful piece of artwork that she did, and I will pop it here somewhere in the show notes. And I remember seeing it on a social media somewhere and went, that's me. This woman has created a picture of me in my garden where I want to grow up when I properly grow up, not just 50 plus, but 70 plus, like I'm going that direction. And this picture was just like absolutely just drew me in. And then I created a journal a couple of years ago, and I don't know if many of you know, but I basically didn't know most of the women in that journal. I just reached out to 13 women and went, right, I'm going to do this thing. Have you got some artwork? But you have to give it to me like now. So what have you got all ready to go? And Peace kind of said, but my artwork's kind of AI. It's not really kind of my artwork. And I was like, no, it is. It's glorious and I love it. And then she asked whether she could create a piece of artwork for a beautiful sister who had passed. And when that artwork, I've got truth bumps as I say it. When that artwork dropped into my inbox, it absolutely made my heart sing because the artwork that she had created, and I feel like shamelessly finding it quickly. She says, if you're listening to this on Spotify rather than watching it on YouTube, I'm just hunting our journal out quickly because if I was a super organized person who made a plan, I would have everything to hand. But I'm not, because that's how we roll. If you and I were meeting around the kitchen table, I wouldn't have planned this conversation beforehand. Exactly like I was just saying to Peace, I can't get the blooming ring light to work, and so I'm in the dark, half in the dark. And would I sit around the kitchen table and go, oh, actually, hang on a minute, the light's not right? I wouldn't. Anyway, so this is the picture. If you're not watching this on YouTube and you can't see this picture, you should probably go back afterwards when you're not driving your car, listening on Spotify and watch it. So this was created, and it was created for a beautiful sister called Samara. And when it lands in my inbox, my business partner was a guy called Sunbird, and he passed away 10 years ago. And he used to carry the dragon energy, and he used to call me Tinks. And it was like, it landed in my inbox. I was like, oh yeah, here's another soul on the same path who absolutely gets it. So that's kind of where my journey with peace started. So when I was talking about creating some guest podcasts, I was like, come on in, let's get around the kitchen table, let's have a conversation. So I'm not going to share much more with you because I can rabbit on for hours and this podcast will go on for days. But I am going to introduce you to the beautiful Peace Ravenwood. Let me take myself off of pin. Let me bring you in. There we go, my love. How are you?
Oh my God.
Hey, doll.
Oh my gosh, that just made me really emotional that you shared that for Samara.
Yeah.
Can I say, I mean that was the epitome of her as Dragon Mother. She birthed dragons
Mm.
and she channeled dragon energy and she brought in the light codes. And when she was taken from us so quickly, you know, there were thousands of people that really were moved. Everyone that she touched just by being her. So I just want to thank you for paying that honor and tribute to her.
Mm.
That beautiful image that you have in the journal.
It's such a thing, isn't it? Because also, again, I only knew Samara through kind of social media. I don't think we'd ever met in person. And I say that because often I've been in fields with people at different times and not necessarily known it. But there was so many beautiful little links and connections when we started to connect. So I'm looking forward to this chat and seeing where it goes. I'm going to grab my tea. What are you drinking? Have you got something good there?
I do. So my little peace mug that my beautiful man found for me in a shop, and he said, "Do you want it?" I was with him, and he took a photograph, and he says, "Do you want it?" And I went,
Of course I do. Absolutely. Stunning, stunning, beautiful. Well, I'm on a peppermint and licorice this afternoon, so I'm going to get comfy in my office chair. We're not anywhere else today because the dogs were going nuts and everybody else is going a bit mad, and the guys are cutting down the trees out the front. And you know those days where everywhere you go, it's just a bit noisy. It's
"It's
like
popping off," as we say.
exactly, exactly. So how are you doing? Tell me what have you been up to?
Well, I need to tell you what I've got in my cup.
Oh yeah, tell me.
I have rose tea.
Hmm.
So we have Rosa in my cup today because I opened a rose dieta this morning with a beautiful sister. So, and we're walking this path for the rest of the month, working with rose medicine.
Sweet. Tell me about rose medicine because actually, ironically, I picked up two tea bags and one was rose and I put it down and was like, am I there? So it's so funny that you're drinking rose. We could have both been drinking rose and I would have not known that moment. So
How amazing would that be?
tell me about rose medicine.
Oh gosh, well, it's a very, very, very expansive. It's rose medicine. What does rose conjure up for us? Where does rose connect for us? And, maybe everyone that's listening can just feel into that. What does rose signify for you? And what does her appearance and her scent and her color bring into your world? This is where we go with plant medicine and the realm of plant consciousness. It's like, it's not just about, oh, that's a pretty plant, or let me go and sniff it. We're actually stepping into the realm of plants and listening to how they interact with us and what they have to share with us. So, of course, rose medicine is the medicine of the heart. And so it helps us process through so many emotions, and it helps us with healing deep emotional wounds within the heart space. We could talk for absolute hours and hours about rose medicine. In
Mm,
fact, she's one of the plants that I walk with. Well, I never stop walking with her really.
yeah.
She's with us all season.
Yeah, absolutely. Roses are like my favorite, right from, so I've been an aromatherapist since I was 16. I trained when like before I'd even left college and I it was one of those things, but I just remember even back to being a little girl in like 5 or 6 in my nan's garden, like crushing up rose petals to make my own perfume, like I don't know any of us as girls who didn't do that at some
No.
point. And then I've had so many beautiful experiences with Rose, like in lots of ways, drinking and wearing and smelling and being around rose. And then I had this precious moment where, as an interfaith minister, I always think it's weird when I say I married my sister-in-law, but you know what I mean. I married her to her beloved about 2 years ago, and she was talking to me one day about 6 months beforehand, and she was like, "Oh, I'm looking at natural confetti, and it's really expensive." And I was like, "Do you know how many roses I go through? Like in terms of like, there's always rose, loads at Sacred Sister, loads at like every retreat." So I just started to collect all of the rose petals. So the confetti that we used on her wedding day were all of these rose petals we'd gathered for like 6 months from all of these women's spaces. It was just magical. And
Right.
it really kind of, it just had that whole kind of reality. So yeah,
That's
I really hear
yeah,
you.
really incredible.
Yeah.
She's always, you know, we don't have our own personal space at the moment, but we will have later this year. We'll be in one place for just about a year, I think. So I then can reinstall my altar space. And Star Child in Glastonbury, how they
I
have the
do.
beautiful artwork on the tree. That's what I've always had in my own home space. So I get to do that again. And I've got a mini portable one that I set up this morning, and there's rose petals and crystals and the rose quartz and, a goddess figure. And I change that throughout the year. Anybody that's sort of familiar with what I used to do when I was at events, the centerpiece of my cacao stall was the goddess and all her adornments to cacao. And it's art, right? And it's sacred art and how you express the divine through you. So altar spaces are so important, I feel, as an expression of
Yeah.
that.
Stunning. Tell me more about what that. You just mentioned cacao and kind of festival land, and like how would people listening, like, because again, one of those things, we've got so many mutual friends and so many people in common. It was like, how have we not met? How have we not been in the same field? How has that happened? And so I'd love you to tell the people listening, like, tell us more about you, more about your journey. Like, I know you've been in your van and you've done the whole van life thing and you've been traveling, and I love that kind of expression back to altars. My husband always laughs. He's like, is that an altar? Is that an altar? Am I allowed to clean that? Like, is that just a shelf of things? And it's like, no, don't touch it, So it's been his excuse for years as to, not doing the polishing and the housework. It's like, I'm just going to touch something that's been put there. It might look like it's random, but I know it will have a purpose. So tell me more.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, well, I mean, oh gosh, plant medicine runs through me. I've been a medicine carrier for, oh gosh, nearly 20 years. And it was only through, I mean, cacao was the medicine that opened me to the plant realm. And I'm sure it has for many people. The first bite just changed the trajectory of my life when I really met cacao in that way. And I'm pretty sure a lot of your listeners will know who I am anyway because of that very thing was the cacao, you
Yeah.
know. And so I made functional medicine blends, if you really want to give them a name, and I started that, nearly 20 years ago. And when I was going out to the Mind Body Spirit events, mostly in the north of the UK, but I did Glastonbury Glastonbury, the assembly rooms a few times, and a few other, on the road kind of events where we brought cacao and what have you. But it was mainly up above Lancaster and the Lake District areas that we had Mind Body Spirit events that I used to attend, and to bring awareness of plant medicine and cacao and how she opens you to a different way of perceiving life, and like I say, always, even when I was making my own potions and lotions with herbs and oh, even before Ant and I met, I had a market store and I was making like different potions and lotions and shampoos, and there was always an altar space with a display of herbs and candles and things like that. So this has always been my path as revering the plant world for the wisdom and healing that this opens us up to, if that's a way I can term it. And then it deepened with cacao, and I was, devoted to my own journey through experiencing what she opened me up to. And that's changed a lot over the last couple of years, to be much more now immersed in the plant realm with our native plants. And the emphasis has shifted away from cacao and brought me right back to the plants on our doorstep, because they are powerful allies for us to navigate this really fastly changing world around us. They bring us back to center. They bring us back to wholeness and to our essence,
Mm.
you know, and they help stabilize us and anchor us in times of great turmoil.
Yeah, for sure. And I really want to honor that kind of turning point back to our native kind of plants, because it's one of the things that I try to do with Sacred Sister, especially when we hold ceremony in our kind of gatherings and things, is like, let's come back to our land, our wisdom. And it's so hard to find, or I have found it hard to find. We're an ancient land, but actually it's almost like, I don't know, I haven't done enough research to know where from, but in my bones, I just feel like, women were the wisdom carriers, and so because of the way that women have been pushed aside, actually those all of that medicine of our land has kind of been buried. And
Mm.
so I feel like there's a whole kind of raft of us kind of coming back going, no, no, like where is our medicine? And so I really, really get that sense of like, what is it to uncover the bones of our ancestry in that way. So I love that you've made that switch and turn yourself into kind of like what are the herbs of our homeland? Which herbs, if you want to share, which herbs would you say, like, give me like what, this is really putting you on the spot here, but I'm just like, give me one herb that you're like, no one would know about that, but they use it every day. It's like, I wonder if there's something that people kind of like, if I was to say that rosemary would be the thing that would kind of spread in my mind, because we have a garden full of it. Do you know what I mean? And everyone goes, oh, that's really nice on your food, but they don't really think about its other benefits. And so that's one that just sprung to mind. But like, what others can you feel like into
Oh,
that you want to share?
God, I'm having to tell them all to be shut, just be quiet.
Then they want their place. Me.
How I do it, it's like, well, I've learned not to say, well, who's coming out to play, because they're all going, me, and I go, no, just ease back, babies. But that's how all my blends were created. But I just went out, oh, so who's next? Come
Right,
into this, and why?
right.
A dialogue, and then I'd have to go, like, it's like I was being interviewed, and I was interviewing them, they were interviewing me, and we're going, right, what's the purpose? What's the end purpose of this? What do I want this to be initiating in people that are going to drink it?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like that process. And so let me really feel into one that would really like, I mean, I only work with a very few select family members because we don't need all the herbs, right?
Mm.
We can get so lost in complex herbal too muchness,
Yeah.
when actually, if you really look at our indigeneity, we would only have ever worked with a very small number of herbs. And I always turn to the wild first, not the cultivated. So they're my number one. And oh gosh, do you really want to? Okay, Daisy.
Sweet.
I was just like, how you send your little spidey senses out, and you go, well, who's speaking the loudest right now?
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, really? Daisy. But like, tell me about Daisy.
Oh gosh, right. So Daisy, I met Daisy. Um, so okay, so my backstory in plant medicine and plant consciousness is through a year-long apprenticeship with a beautiful, amazing lady called Rachel Corby. And her teachers were like mine. They were Matthew Wood. They were Howard Booner. They were Elliot Cohen. They were Pam Montgomery. The amazing teachers of plant consciousness and intelligence. So this is a lineage that I'm walking and remembering as I'm walking it, because I don't know everything. How can we?
Absolutely.
And in the apprenticeship, we never knew what plants we were going to work with. Everything was done blind. So on any one day, we'd be maybe working with two plants. And the day we met Daisy, and this might give people tingles, right? Whatever plant we were going to work with met me even before we started working with it.
Yeah.
So Daisy, I was living it well. I was in my little tiny van back then, my little day van. She was called Epona. And she was a little Movano, and we self-converted it. She was so cute. And I'd parked down the sort of tree alley where we were doing the work in Compton Dundon, just outside Glastonbury. And this the place. It's a beautiful permaculture site. It's a lady called Nicole Volpaire. She's amazing. And I was parked on my van, and every morning I get up and I make my tea and greet the day at dawn. And I was getting out of the van, and I noticed beneath my feet, and it had been raining, so there was a bit of mud, and there was a whole carpet of daisy, because her leaves, they lie very flat when they're being mown. And I went, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm standing all over you and squishing you." And this little voice tingled in me, "Don't worry, I'm here so that you can walk safely." And I was like, "Okay." And so the rest of the day, I just spent, I know, right?
I'm like tingles.
It's so cute. So this was a little dialogue that opened. And anyway, later on that day, Rachel said, "Right, we're going to journey with Daisy."
Sweet.
And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And it happened on day one with Nettle as well. Nettle would have been the other one. These two were vying with my attention, but I thought a lot of people know about Nettle, how supportive it is, and blah, blah, blah. Daisy's less seen as a medicine teacher. So she was very piping up, going, "Me over Nettle, please. Nettle always gets the limelight. Thank you."
But also that is kind of if you think about nature, right? Nettle gets the limelight, not in necessarily the positive sense, right? Because you're like, stay away from the nettles, don't go near the nettles, like be careful of the nettles. And daisies, we just cut our freaking grass and like cut our heads off, right? It's like, what are we doing? So I can see that and sense that and feel that. And for anyone who's listening, it's like it can sound bonkers, right? It's like, oh, here we go, the weird women who, sitting here with their dreadlocks, listening to plants talking nonsense. But actually, every medicine that is out there in a pharmacy right now started off life as a plant. The only reason it's no longer from a plant is because it's quicker and easier to make it in a factory and make it by science. And guess what? A daisy doesn't make the pharmaceutical company a shitload of money. Punting you out an aspirin will. So it's like it's so lovely to speak to someone who gets that and is on that kind of wavelength, because I'm always like the weirdo who bangs on about that shit, but it's like, why would you? Why would you? But we just do. It's not that I'm against science and I'm against the medical profession, but it's like, come on, like how many of us could heal our own realities by going and picking a piece of kind of feverfew from the garden? Like it's like,
I know. And there's a lot of things that we don't realize where we're disconnected from our true self and our soul self, because the noise in our world is so great. We don't hear the little voices, the little voices that are actually ever present. And thank you, Daisy. I want to really honor your little voice and your cuteness, and how you make a stable carpet for us to walk on, across all the lawns. You can see the beautiful, lush, succulent leaves of the daisy, and then when you're lucky enough not to cut your lawn, she'll poke her heads up and she'll open those beautiful Fibonacci sequence flowers for you. And if you've never looked into the center of a daisy, please do, because that is sacred geometry right there. You look into the center of flowers, even a dandelion flower, when she's fully open, you have the Fibonacci sequence. And, I walk the spiral path, and this is it. This is the endless spiral in and out. And, this is what we speak about all the time is we're not on a path that way or this way. This is the path. And we
Mm.
meet it inwards and outwards, and we return. And then we go on and experience, and then we return when we need to. So looking at that in symbology in nature is really important, you know. And who remembers making daisy chains, right?
Yeah,
Every goddamn day in the summer when we were kids,
absolutely.
you know?
Yeah, and like we just said, like roses, right? Like they're there, and yet we're not seeing them in that way. So, and then we go out to South America to find a piece of whatever white sage to, it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing,
Exactly. And I just want to, people will not know this, but on our journey with Daisy, we all went off into a separate part, and I laid down in a daisy patch, and Rachel was drumming just so we could just perceptually hear the drum
Mm.
to that real beautiful vision beat. For about half an hour, I lay in the daisy realm. And honestly, if you ever get to experience this, go and sit with the daisy, because she opened a portal to the Fae in that journey. I literally walked and I landed in the middle of her flower. It was like Alice in Wonderland, when she drinks the magic potion, which of
We-
course we all know is Amanita muscaria.
Yeah.
However, Daisy does it as well. Um, and I went down and into a journey with Daisy that opened me back up to the world of the Fae. And that lineage that a lot of us hold and will remember, of a different realm that walks alongside ours. There's not far off realms. This is my belief. We're all on a parallel to different realms of these different worlds, and the Fae is one of them.
Mm.
So when you're working with plant allies and in this plant consciousness, we're walking within that realm, and it's really beautiful. So it's such a powerful, almost psychedelic experience with just by closing my eyes and laying in the middle of Daisy on my sheepskin. It was so amazing.
Amazing. And how beautiful is that? Because actually in reality in the summer, like any one of us could go and lay on a sheepskin in the daisies, right? Like it's that common for us to see them, and yet we don't have those journeys.
Exactly. We're too busy.
Well, that's what I was just about to come to, because that we like thank you for all of that. I know I've just literally thrown herbs at you. It was kind of like not really our plan today, but this is the whole point of these
It's a plan.
conversations. It's like, yeah, it's like this is the whole point of like where, what comes up, can we make these extraordinary conversations ordinary? It's like let's put this actually on the table and speak about it. But when we were talking the other day, we were also sharing about, and we said then, like, we should have just hit record on that button, because you just named like the world being so busy. We were talking about, what it is to actually step back into a more conscious way of living, to a more ritualistic way of living. And you already about altars and things. And so we were also talking about like, the mind field that is social media, the mind. I was very careful with my words then. The mind of social media. Do you know what I mean? It's like it just we get into that place. It's so hard. And then as an ADHD woman, it's hard to like not get stuck in the doom scroll and like be looking for it, but actually we end up down the rabbit hole of icky stuff. And so I know that you've kind of created a membership in terms of like coming away from that place. And yet we still have to be there to then promote the membership, right? So it's like, we're in that similar kind of space. So I wonder if you might like what's your view? What's your feeling? Why come away from that well? What was it? What was the thing that with the final straw that made you go, I'm done with this?
Well, yeah, it is a bit of a dichotomy, isn't it? Because like you say, we need to be present on these platforms in order to reach those that are really looking for these safer spaces. Because for me, I don't really do Instagram, and I just haven't got the capacity,
Mm.
because that is just extra noise for me, and it hurts. Facebook I can just about handle if I don't scroll for very long. If I scroll, I'm scrolling for the reels because I want to see the different reels with the cute animals on. Come on, who doesn't want cute chickens bouncing on
Oh, really?
trampolines?
Oh, really?
Because it helps to shift your nervous system into a much more joyful response rather than the doom scrolling. So if you like your reels, well, fill your boots because there's so many cute animal reels out there. It's aside, of course. Um, I think what it was the noise, and I'm sick of performance art on and influencers. I can't do it. It's just like everybody's trying to vie for this spot, and it's noisy and it's too much, and the division and the polarization is a lot. So I thought, how can I provide a safe space and build on safety? Because I think what did it, to be honest, was we were having a discussion in the membership in Inner Sanctum about, I'm just trying to recall what it was. I woke up one day going, flipping it, what is this? I was feeling something and I was like, what the hell? And I thought, something landed, and it made me realize that I have never felt safe in my entire life.
Mm.
And it wasn't just from me that we have to be really discerning where our spidey senses are picking up. I know a lot of this will really resonate because there's no separation between you, I, and all of beingness. We are all connected. So how can we not be feeling all that's coming in? And who always says, I'm feeling all the feels, right? We feel everything, particularly as women, particularly as highly sensitive women. So how do we filter out what's ours and what's coming in from outside? So I brought this into our discussion with the sisters inside. Um, and we have an exclusive, an inclusive membership. Anybody's welcome to join, but it's mostly women. And it's like we speak about that as well. Why is it only women that come forward? What is going on? Where are our brothers, right? Where are all the others that need these spaces? And we spoke into safety and how none of us have ever felt true safety. So we decided that, because I shape the inner sanctum with the founders, we've created that space together over the last 18 months. So it's our devotion is to create this space of non-negotiable safety where there's zero tolerance for any shenanigans that are not safe for anyone. And we're learning how to do that because we don't know how,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what did it. Circling back to a question, is what did it for me, is why I wanted to build off of social media, because groups are dead. I've never found any traction or whatever you want to call it in a group to get any engagement whatsoever, apart from the loyal handful of people that will always show up. And it's like, oh my God, I can't do this.
That loyal handful of people will now be your founding members in your membership, though. They just find their way to another way.
They are absolutely. Um, so it's like I'm putting my energy where it's not reciprocated or met. And I only want to go into rooms where I can be met and where I can meet others wherever they're at. And there's no hierarchy, there's no teacher, there's no, we just are. And it is what it is, just is this space of pure acknowledgement of our divine presence. So
Mm.
that's why, that's why this is important. And I can't ever see us not needing social media for this
Yep.
because there's always new people searching for where they feel at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real,
Of
can I swear, head fuck?
course you can. Like I'm a truck driver's daughter. I swear like a fishwife. So yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
So I'm go on, sorry.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. It absolutely is.
So, but I think it's also a lesson in our own containment as well. How do we show up but really protect and contain our own energy from leaking? Like you saying earlier about doom scrolling and then going down the rabbit hole and 6 hours have gone and you're just a mess in the
Mm.
corner, sobbing
Mhm.
and
Yep.
drooling and needing chocolate.
Yep.
But the chocolate's, none.
Can't say I've ever done that piece.
No,
Never. No.
never. No.
No, no, because I haven't waited till the end to eat the chocolate.
Okay.
I've just started with
Yeah.
the chocolate and then carried on doing scrolling. Yeah.
I'd already had two booja booja before we began.
Good girl. Well done.
I'm class. Um, but yeah, it is really important that how we show up in social media is contained. And cacao delivery. I just had my cacao delivery. Amazing. That's Alfie, by the way.
Ah.
Um, yeah, we've had a whole month off of cacao daily, so it's really nice to have a treat now.
Mm.
All right, Alfie, that's enough, my darling. Um, so learning how to make social media work for you without burning you out is really, really, really important.
Yeah.
Really detaching your energy from it when you've been in, and done what you need to do what you are creating, and then just get out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I,
I kind of treat my social media. It's really interesting because most of the people listening to this again will have found us through social media. So you become again, it becomes a dichotomy. It's like moaning about social media, but actually that's what we do. We complain about AI, but actually we all use AI. It's like there's this reality. And I want to circle back around to something you spoke about with safety because um I talk in the same language but in an opposite. It's really interesting because our spaces, I always say that our spaces are not safe spaces. And the reason I say they're not safe spaces is because I can't make sure that you are safe, right? Like the only way I could make sure everyone is safe in that space is if I was to ask every single person to give me a list of the things that it's gonna make them feel unsafe. And let's face it, they won't even know what that is because we're so numbed out to the things that don't like make us feel safe. So I always speak to the fact that we're creating a safer space because it's like I'm going to create the safest space I possibly can. And then I'm going to teach you how to navigate your own feelings and emotions when they come up so that
yeah.
you're not on the back foot worried about what might happen what if they speak about that. It's like often you see things come up and it's like there's a trigger warning beforehand. And I'm like, don't put the trigger warning because actually, in reality, what you're doing is saying this might upset you. If it upsets you, it upsets you. Otherwise, I'm censoring myself to say, is that okay or not? And so we've kind of done this whole journey around what would real life do inside of our container. So it's not like, I find it so hard when let's just call it what it is. You run a women's circle and everyone has to sit around wearing white cotton and looking like, a certain way. Like it's a very Instagram worthy version of like, no, No, let's make it real. That's what it's about. Let's make it real. Let's bring it home. Let's talk about trauma like it's a really open expression of who we are. Let's
Mm.
understand that we're going to get triggered the fuck out of each other. That's what we're here for. But let's really own that so we can be like, wow, that feels a bit uncomfortable in my body. Like, what's really going on here? Rather than, oh, you made me feel that way. It's like, no, let's own it. So, and I know that we're both working in the same way, but it's like that language shift that makes the difference. Or, you know, and that's why we can have the similar conversations. Your people will gravitate to you, my people will gravitate to me. But also the big thing for me is let's get rid of the guru complex, right?
Uh-huh.
It's like I'm just so anti, like I just say to everybody, I sit in the dirt with you. Do
Yeah.
not look at me to have it all right. Because if you follow me down the path, you're going to end up screwed, right? Because I'm going to take you down the really muddy track.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to step in some really muddy puddles because I'm not circumnavigating them, you know?
On your ass and get really mucky in your white dress.
Absolutely. 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 And that isn't to say that like I'm not sitting here, I need to caveat that. I'm not sitting here saying any of that's wrong either. It's like I just before I came on social media, up popped a thing from Jeff Foster. I don't know if you know Jeff Foster.
Uh,
Did you just have it? Did you see it before? So yeah, so he was just sharing about Deepak Chopra and these Epstein files, and like I can be completely honest with you, right? I have to stay slightly outside of it all because this is gonna again. I don't think it will shock many people. I've never voted in my life. I don't. I'm a bit like, why on earth? People are like, well, you don't have a say if you don't vote. It's like, but if I vote, then that's me saying I'm okay with this shitty system, and I'm not okay with this shitty system. There is not one person in this or like that I would want to vote for until a group of fucking amazing witches stand in Parliament. I ain't voting for no bugger. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's our next job piece.
yeah.
Maybe we need to do that. Fellas, where are the witches? If you're watching this and you're like, yeah, let's run for Parliament, come on in, let's do it.
Uh,
As long as someone knows what they're talking about, because that's not me. I can argue the toss all day long, but I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to those things. But also, and this is going to be a bit of a rabbit hole, so I'm not going to go down it too far. But also, they've made it almost impossible because even the women that are in Parliament are mostly in their masculine because they have to be in their masculine to fight a masculine world. And that's the shift from patriarchy to this matriarchal space. Matriarchy doesn't mean that we're going to run the country like men and we're going to be women and you have to do it our way. It means where do we come back to this mother society where we nurture each other, where we care for each other, where every human has a space in this world. And until we get to that place, and I know it's coming, you probably feel it too. It's like it's coming, right? There's this shift happening. And I've got to the stage where I'm on social media going back round to that, it's like I can't be anything other than myself. I can't be anything other than real. And, I can't show up in any other way than where I'm at. And yes, it will take longer because the algorithm can't work me out. I can't niche myself down to a little box that says this is who I am because I'm me. It's like you're not a human being, kind of, and you only ever talk about menopause. Like if you're a human being, you talk about all sorts of shit in a day. So like if it's hard. So I really get this dichotomy, and it's like where, and I like you, there will never be a time when it doesn't exist, but it shouldn't be called social media. There's nothing social about it. And our groups were the place to be social, right? And to
yeah,
connect and to do deep work. And then they screwed the algorithm on that. So now people even in your group don't see it because they don't know how the group runs. So
absolutely.
it's like your membership is like that portal, right? It's like that place where, for me, I just know it's like they can come when they want to. It's not there in their faces all the time. They don't have to scroll through it to find everything. It's really easy. It's laid out, it's there, and they don't get caught up in anything else. And it's an app on their phone. If they want to find it when they're on the bus, they can, It's like, and I say to people, if you like I'm switching them over. It's like if you need something, right, before you hit social media, just look at the app. Like look at the heartbeat and just see what's there. Like maybe actually what you need is a meditation. Maybe actually what you need is a moment to kind of maybe what you want to where you want to post is in there. So the responses you get are all beautiful because it's surrounded by a group of women who really get you, rather than the risk. I shared the, the AI pictures that everyone was sharing yesterday. You saw it. It was like,
Yeah.
you post on it. And there's some guy who's just like, you're wasting water. And I'm like, what? I don't understand what you're talking about, but it's okay. I'll go and Google it. You don't need to tell me. Do you know what I mean? Because then I'll just get your opinion. So I went and Googled it and I'm like, okay, I can understand that. But the water still exists. Like it doesn't just use water. The water still exists. And it like I don't know. I'll have all sorts of people now comment on this one, but it's like this is the world we live in. We can't shut down absolutely everything because some things are just going to happen.
Yeah.
And and a little bit like politics and religion, some shit unfortunately is just going to happen. What I can do, and what everybody listening to this can do, is keep coming back to that frequency of love that you are intrinsically moving towards. And this is part of that conversation we had the other day as well. It's like, how can we hold our frequency in such a way that we don't get wobbled off? And I wonder what your response to that would be, my love.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, let me just throw some more big ones at you today. Like, just thought you were meeting me around the kitchen table to talk shit for an hour, and then here we are, so talking about some really deep things. But I guess there's a question, right? Like, what what do you do? Let's get to keep your frequency high. That's probably a better way to come about that.
Yeah, really, really good reframe on that. Thank you. Because my head was just about to go.
Yeah, no. What do you do? Let's make this real. Because I can sit and go, I know what I do every day that just kind of holds me back in. Because again, when we were talking about safety being an inside job, the only reason we ever feel unsafe is because we leave ourselves and we abandon ourselves. And that's where we start to look to fill the gaps. And that's where social media becomes the gap filler. So
Yeah.
it's like actually, when you feel like that, what can you do? So let's just share a few kind of ideas as we kind of come to a bit of a close. Otherwise, we'll be here all day, which I'd absolutely love to be, but you've got to get out a drink.
Food together and carry on talking, right? Um, so I want to speak more about, your the safety that you are, and I remember you sharing about, you can't guarantee that your space is safe, and it's completely right. I want to just sort of like speak into that very briefly because it will lead us into this the question is that it is all about your own safety. You are remembering how to regulate your own nervous system and how to anchor your own frequency. And that, in essence, is everything that I uh, surround my spaces with. That is the threshold that those coming inside are walking into, the remembrance pathway. Because we know it all. We came into this world with a memory wipe. Okay, this could get woo. I will tell you.
We're going to caveat with it. Watch the woo.
Woo
Come
shit.
on in with the woo. You're welcome.
Okay. So we are born with a memory wipe unless we're so fortunate that we have not had that happen, and we do remember it really early on when we're growing up. From childhood. If we've got the right conditions, circling back to the plant realm, we can't bloom unless the conditions are right. So some are really fortunate of us when we're born into the right conditions with our the most conscious parenting that speeds up the remembering process and helps us not have to go into all the trauma throughout our lives. But it's a small minority that get that fortunate. So our life is one of remembering, but we just think we're learning some really shit lessons. And we're going through all the traumas and all the crap and everything. All the shit's going down. It's all popping off, right? And we've all walked that path. Um, and a lot of us get lost in that horrible fight, flight, form, flop and freeze. That's our life. Most people are in a reactive survival state from the moment they are born to the moment they leave the planet and go and be compost. Those of us that walk this way or whatever way, it can be any path of remembrance, we're learning and remembering how to live in a body but knowing that we're more than that.
Mm.
So this is the depth. I put a post up yesterday called "The Ego to I Am Portal is Open," and that was in response to a video that of an AI video that was shared about our true essence as divine beings. And I know just the portal, the ego to I am portal. I was just like, fuck, that's it.
You
You
just love
know,
those moments where you're and it's only because we're listening though,
yeah,
because
it's like that. So it's powerful when we hear these and we have these mic drop moments that just land because that's what you're walking, right? And that's what you're here to hold the frequency of. So how do I do that? Well, it has luckily become because I walk with devotion, right? And we can talk about devotion and a path of devotional service. There's so many different ways of doing that. But I eat, breathe, sleep, walk, talk, the path of devotion. Is it glamorous? Is it floaty dresses? Is it flower garlands in my hair? No, no, it's this. It's like you, I'll show up in my PJs, no, I never wear makeup, my hair's what it is, it does its thing. And but it's how we carry ourselves throughout our life in a responsive state instead of a reactive state. You know, I commented in one of the galactic light groups yesterday because there's so many people going, oh, ascension this, and we're going to leave the planet behind and go into 5D and it's all going to be love and light. And I'm like, I've got,
sorry, why I shoot myself on the love and light front.
I've got shit to do right here, right now. I'm not intending to leave my body. I'm certainly not leaving this goddamn beautiful planet. Yet I do live in a higher frequency of consciousness, very rooted and earthed on the land. Just going to go and do my alarm. That's nothing to do with this, by the way. It's just I set alarms on my phone every day to remind me to do stuff.
I mean, that is one of the rooted things, though, right? Like, that's a prime example of rooted things because people say to me, well, how do you remember to drink your cacao and do this and do that? It's like, because my phone tells me, like, if I didn't, I'd be off, like, I'd forget. So,
Yeah. But yeah, so this is kind of a lot of woo stuff language coming in, but it's really rooted. It's just, we were talking about the spiral path before. That way of walking through life is really one of devotion and commitment. It's remaining in a regulated state, fully aware and responsive, so that when life drops you a curveball, you go, hey, that's interesting. Not, oh, fuck.
yeah.
So I talk about this is the essence here, right down from creator down through the center of the body, rooted down through the feet into the mycelium network, down into the core of Mother Earth. So you become virtually unmovable from your responses, which come from self-regulation and connected consciousness. So, and that can look how it looks for anyone. But what doesn't happen is you get re traumatized. You
Mm.
don't have the traumas anymore unless it's some asshat
Mm.
sending you a letter that you just go, fuck off, rip it up, just chuck it. I
Yeah.
don't play in that world. I choose not to play in that patriarchal, dogmatic systems and bureaucracy world. And the secret is nobody needs to, but
Mm.
we're caught in it. We are caught in it. So I get called out all the time going, oh, you're just living an idealistic life. No, I'm actually living a life and proving that you don't have to do
Mm.
thing that keeps you complicit
Mm.
and, you know, under the thumb of all the stuff that's going down. But it's such a conscious commitment.
I think that's what you just shared there. That conscious commitment. That's the piece that I'd love to kind of bring this right the way around to, because whatever it is that you're doing in the world, whether your pathway is to look at herbs as medicine, whether your pathway is to do qigong and yoga, whether your pathway is to believe in God, whether your pathway is to believe in the Buddha, Allah, like whatever your pathway is, the devotional space of coming home to yourself as the guru, as the wisdom keeper, as the person who knows, like, you know what's best for you. Stop outsourcing your reality. Like, come home. But we're taught to pray to an outside source, to speak, to go to the doctor, to do everything's outside of ourselves. And so for me, how we keep our frequency high every day is exactly that. It's like, what brings you home to yourself? You know,
Mm.
when was the last time you picked up a pen and journaled? I mean, journaling gives me the ick. That's why I created a beautiful journal. So I want to go to it every day. Otherwise, I wouldn't. But it's like it takes me out of my head and it takes me out of my story. Otherwise, I'm just stuck in my stories. I'm just about to do a 6 week course called Rooted, actually, with Inside Our Sanctuary. And that 6 weeks will take those women on that deeper journey. We've closed the sanctuary for those 6 weeks because actually this journey is like the depths. It's like we're going there, and you know, but you said about conscious, like, we're only going there for the ones who are taking absolute sacred action to do the stuff every day. I get
Mm.
so frustrated when I watch people doing the same shit over and over and over and wondering why nothing changes. Like somebody's going to shine some freaking love and light on them and it's all going to magically change. It's not. I always say, you know, we didn't get fucked up overnight. We're not going to get fixed overnight, right? Like, it takes you know, it's a whole lifetime. So, but at the same time, certain things can shift just like that when we become just aware of, why is that thing affecting me? Okay, how is it making me feel? Okay, like, let me deal with that, and then we move on from that place rather than holding ourselves in that place. And then we have all of the tools like the herbs and meditations and journaling and those tools that kind of help us to stay in that trajectory. And I think that's kind of a really good place to kind of wrap this up, and we'll have loads more conversations over the time, I'm sure, if you feel like coming back to chat with me.
Come
um
on.
maybe we'll actually do one in person, you know.
I would
um
love.
yeah, absolutely. But let's kind of end with that sacred action, right? Because we took sacred action to show up today and to be on a call on a Thursday afternoon with a cup of rose tea. Do you know what I mean? Like, we took action to do that. And if we don't take action, actually, don't complain about it. That's kind of like a big reality for me. It's like, you can't don't complain if you're not going to take the action to change it, right?
Well, this is it, and that self-responsibility, radical self-responsibility
Yeah.
is what I speak about a lot because, like you've just said, we outsource everything.
Yeah.
And, the simplest act of radical self-responsibility is to check in with yourself every morning and throughout the day and before you go to sleep at night and just pause for a minute, and if you need a phone alarm, put it on and, give it a title, what it's for, because like you said, the world is so busy and so noisy. We are overstimulated to fuck. Really
Yeah.
we are. So radical self-responsibility is to take yourself into those sacred moments of reflection, go, well, how am I feeling right now? What in my body is needing attention? And then looking to find whereabouts in the body is, you know, feeling the most shouty right now, whatever it feels like. Could be a pain, it could be tension, it could be a stomach ache, it could be some tingles, it could be anything, right? And give that some attention because it's there for a reason to bring you back into coherence with yourself. And then you can just make notes, notice what you notice about how you're feeling, and then see what an emotion comes up. What is that emotion? What is that in my body? How does that feel if I attached an emotion to it? And speak about it to yourself. Speak about it into your circles. And we do this often. We go, well, what is coming up for us right now? And this takes you right back to the work that reconnects by Joanna Macy. You know, we have these difficult, deep conversations where we hold and witness each other. We're not fixing anything, but we need to honor that feeling, that emotion behind it. You don't need to unpack and live there,
No,
but you can't keep bypassing it and numbing it out.
no.
You know, we've got to go there, and do that, and then find a practice that fits you so you can honor and move through that, what you're feeling, what you're noticing. And that's one path of coming home,
Mm.
one little way of coming home. Thank you for letting me share that came up.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's precious. That's exactly the work. And I think so many of us are teaching and sharing the same wisdom, because actually that fundamentally is it. When I hear about, it's the start of the new year, new year, new you, you should manifest, you should do this, you should do that. It's like you can manifest whatever you want from a place of grounded reality in yourself. It's not going to happen just because you prayed to God and suddenly it arose. It happened because you prayed to God because you then brought it into your consciousness and you aligned with it and your frequency aligned with it because you wanted it. That's how it arrived. So it's like, and I sometimes I think, am I bonkers? Or am I talking the most sense? And then I start to hear other people and I'm like, oh no, like we're not bonkers. Like it makes total sense to me. Why is it not, why does the world not see it? Because it's not fast enough, it's not expensive enough, it's not Gucci enough. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's not seen in that way. It's
No.
just weird women who've got this kind of idea that, if you sing in the woods long enough, that shit will change.
Yeah.
I'd rather sing in the woods all day and sing to my heart's content than be in an office. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. There's no instantness, that the work just is not instant. The work is a devotional service to the rest of your life and those around you.
Yeah.
And, and all of that brings. And it's beautiful when you actually step onto that path and realize that instant gratification is so yesteryear. We're done with instant gratification.
Yeah.
So, and that has to be the soul work, really, I feel, is we know that this is the path forward,
Yeah.
backwards, sideways, all the way around.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And I just want to kind of echo back that last piece. You talked about kind of the ego kind of falling away to the I am. I created an I am campaign last year and then never did anything with it. So maybe we should talk about that. I was
Ooh.
going to take it to the Mind Body Spirit Fair and then I didn't get around to it. But it's like, you know, when we talk about all of those things, it's like I am enough and I am, it's like what is that I am? What are we looking to service outside of ourselves when we just come back home? What is our inner presence? What is that I am? Like
Yeah.
how do we affirm that in every day? And that's another beautiful kind of way to raise your frequency, right? It's like, affirming to yourself that space. And I hate the word enough because it's a bullshit measure anyway. Like it doesn't mean anything, but yet we all feel not good enough. It's like what
Yeah.
what, what are you measuring up against? Anyway,
That
that's a whole other conversation. We could go down that rabbit hole for a long time.
there's a collaboration there.
Maybe. I'm absolutely 100% sure that there is definitely a
Watch
collaboration.
this space.
Watch the space. Thank you, my love. I really, really appreciate you for being here. It's been so sweet to hang out with you. And yeah, next time let's do it in person. And I look forward to catching up with you soon. Thank you to those of you that have listened or watched and witnessed and been a part of our journey. And I'd love you to pop in the comments anything that kind of arose for you in this time. I will pop all of Peace's details in the show notes so you can find her in all of her beautiful glory in all of her spaces. And I look forward to catching you on the next Around the Kitchen Table. Take
Yay,
care.
thank you so much, Laura. Thanks, everyone.